Hey kids!
I'm Kamal.
I'm Selena.
And we're with The City and Beyond.
In today's video, we are going to answer a question that we received about traveling with your spouse. To paraphrase the question, basically you want to know, how do we travel together and not kill one another? The simple answer is, it's really hard. But today we are going to give you some advice along with some of our fellow traveling couples, and hopefully you can pick something that fits for you too.
Before we begin, we're going to ask you to subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the road to getting 1,000 subscribers because realistically, we should have it already. But you can probably just blame the sponsor of our video, our jobs. And without further ado, let's get started.
But wait, how did we meet in the first place? I guess the short answer is we met through friends. Initially, my friend Harleny, who you will see in a video in a couple of weeks probably, me, and our friend Amanda, I believe, were having a great old time at her house one night, and she stops and says, "Oh, somebody has a crush on Selena." And I'm like, "Who has a crush on Selena?" And she goes on to tell me that her husband, Victor that is, without permission, showed my picture to some of his coworkers, and one of them thought I was cute. And I was like, "Oh, that's nice, like, whatever." And she's like, "He has a crush on you, he likes you." And I'm like, "I mean, I don't know him. What's his name?" And she's like, "I don't know, like, Camus, whatever." And I'm like, "You don't even know how to say his name." So I was like, I mean, whatever. Like, if he's interested, let him know, like whatever. Like, hook this up, whatever. On your end, what was it like?
Not even remotely close to that. On my end, I was dating a bunch of different women, and Victor, one day while we were either on break or on lunch, he was like, "Hey man, you know how you like keep taking all these girls out?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "I got another one for you." And I said, "Oh really? What's going on?" And he goes, "There's this girl, she's always over my house, and like, I don't think she has a boyfriend, because like, then why would she be at my house all the time? And you know, sometimes it just like, I like her, but like, I don't need her around. So like, I feel like if you take her out, she'll be at my house less." I'm paraphrasing.
He's gonna get in trouble.
He's gonna get in so much trouble. But I'm paraphrasing, and I was like, "Oh, okay, so what she look like?" And so he shows me her picture, and I was like, "Oh, okay, she's cute. Okay, give her my info and we'll talk." And he did nothing.
So a few weeks go by, and I haven't heard anything from this Kamal, whatever. And so I asked Harley, like, "Yo, what's up with your dude? Like, does he want to go on a date or what?" So I had I was on my little streak of dating, and so I was like getting kind of tired of it. I don't know how you serial daters out there, or relationship, that's a lot of work. Just wanted to put that out there. But I was getting tired, so I was like, if he wants to go on a date, he better catch me before I like shut that door, like not go on any dates for a little while. So she's like, "Oh, let me ask Victor what's going on." So she texts him, and she's like, and she asked me if they can come out my number, and I'm like, "Yeah," like, "that's fine." And I don't know if this is all the same day, but I think it was like in the course of like maybe a week or a couple of days. But I get a text message while I'm working. So at this time, I'm working in East Harlem in the neighborhood, knocking on doors and doing outreach for my job. So it's a lot of door knocking. So you're just knocking on doors, trying to give away free spay neuter. And my phone dings notification that I got a text, and then it keeps dinging. And even my partner at the time at work, he was like, is everything okay? Like, you need to get that? I thought maybe it was an emergency, and then it ended up just being Kamal just texting me for the first time.
Yeah.
I can hear the bells.
Literally.
I can hear the bells, literally. Now he gets why I love singing that song to him.
Yeah. On my end, I completely forgot about her. I'm going to be honest, because I was dating a bunch of people. I didn't really care. And
I was too, but I remembered you.
Obviously.
I didn't actually. I mean, he was just.
Obviously, you weren't like interested in those people. I mean, so Selena texted Harleni texted Victor, and again at break or at lunch, one or the other, Victor brings up Selena again, and he was like, yo, you still interested in talking to this girl? And I'm like, I mean, I guess. And he starts giving me like pointers on how I should talk to her, because like he's known her for so long, and he's like, you guys got a lot in common, you know. I heard she likes to write, and, you know, I always see you be reading the books and stuff, so it's perfect. You know, you guys are like Lego pieces, you just fit together, right? I'm not like actually imitating him, I'm just telling the story. So he gives me her number, and this is where like it almost did not happen. I don't really like small talk, but I'm good at it. But it also bores me to death. So I figured I am just going to get past all the basic questions all at once, and then we can like move on with our lives. So I begin to construct the longest text message ever. Like, you'd swear to God we were like in a fight or something. The longest text message ever, asking all the basic questions like, hey, what's your birthday? Do you have any siblings? What's your favorite color? What do you like to eat? This is my name. This is how you pronounce my name. I have one sibling. My favorite color is red. I do this, that, and the other thing. Who would win in a fight, a gummy bear or a Sour Patch Kid? Answer in the comments below. And send it out. And apparently, because, I don't know, maybe we had different phones. Oh yeah, I had an iPhone at the time.
And I had a Blackberry.
Oh, you had the Blackberry at the time. So instead of her getting the iMessage of like this big block of boom, she gets the fragmented, like individual messages of the whole thing.
I wish I still had it.
But yeah, I'm sure, because she told me afterwards she thought I was crazy.
So I didn't think that he was crazy per se, but I did think that he, like, after we texted a little bit more, I felt like he was like tightly wound, but like not like uptight. I thought that he was just like a little bit of like a smarty pant, and I was like, oh, I don't know about this. Because, you know, his big words. And like on our first date, our first official date, we like had a double date with Harleni and Victor, and he even like corrected me, and I was just like, oh, he's that guy. But something about him was just like, okay, he seems like cool to hang out. I thought at least we would be friends. That, I don't know if you thought that, but like I was like, at least we might be friends out of this, like, even if things don't work out. But like, this is a cool, for me, it was like, it would have been a cool way to like go out of dating, is with like a really good like guy that seems cool and you like end up being friends with. And it's like, yeah, that was fun. But the more, and then when we went on our first date alone, I feel like those weeks I like more and more, I started to realize that it's not like he's toddling around, or I mean, he's a little bit of a smarty pants. Like, you've seen him on this channel,
or you know me.
He knows a lot, but it's more so like he's quirky, which then I started to realize his quirkiness matches my quirkiness a little bit. Like, they complement each other. So then we were able to like call each other out on things, and it'd be like cute little like jabs at each other, but not mean jabs, and it just like totally worked out. And then after a couple of months, we, you know, made things official.
Yeah.
So that's how we met.
All right. So then fast forward a year and change after the first date, we move in together, and then we see the world, and then we get engaged, and
at Justin Timberlake concert.
Oh, we got engaged at a Justin Timberlake concert. But JC didn't call me on stage, but you know, we made the most of it. Yeah.
He didn't answer the tweet.
No. Yeah, and now you know the rest of the story.
I think I talked over you when you said we got married.
Oh, we got married
in Vancouver. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go on to the question.
So the question is, how do you mitigate being mad at your spouse when out on vacation? I wanted to say avoid it, but I know it's going to happen. So, you know, how should I get it out of the way faster, I guess? Good question.
It's a good question.
One time comes to mind. There was a layered thing that happened, and we weren't recording videos at that time, but the one big blowout I think that both of us always go back to is when we went to Paris.
Yes. The Paris fight.
The Paris fight. We got little to no sleep on a very uncomfortable bus ride that took forever. And then we get there, and neither one of us speak the language. I'm not even sure if Google Translate worked the way that it does now, where you can talk to it. But either way, we were having horrible miscommunication, and then we just wind up blowing up at each other because we don't feel like the other one was being heard. So, without blowing up at each other, what we wound up doing is going our separate ways. I do not recommend doing this in a foreign country where you don't know the language.
In the middle of the street.
In the middle of the street. I mean, if you're in your hotel or Airbnb, separate rooms, one of you go outside, somebody go for a drive. But we were separate for, I don't know how long, but it definitely felt like it was like hours.
Hours.
And it felt like hours because after I had been gone for a little while, I was like, wait, I don't even know where she is. And then
his phone.
And my phone did not work at all. There was no public Wi-Fi. So after I was like, I don't even know where she is, I go back to go find her, and she's not where she was. And as your parents always tell you, stay in one place. But like, both of us are mad, so both of us went our separate ways. And then my anger went to worry, because it was like, where is she? And then immediately Taken comes to mind, and like somebody has like taken her and put her on this cruise ship and drugged her up and all this stuff. So then I wound up like walking around looking for her, and then in the midst of looking for her and trying to figure out what caused the argument, what context, we got in an argument trying to figure out where we were supposed to pick up tickets. And so I'm trying to figure out still where we pick up the tickets, because I figure worst case scenario, she's going to go pick up the tickets, right? Because neither one of us will ever waste money on something that we purchase. So I'm looking for her. I'm trying to figure out the tickets, and I think we were about 5 minutes off from each other. We both kind of figure out where we're supposed to get the tickets. And if I'm not mistaken, you got there first. You got there first, and where we had to go was like in the back of like a souvenir store. It was not helpful in the slightest. So short answer, take some time apart to cool down and assess why you're upset, how you got there, and is it even really like worth it in the grand scheme?
Yeah, that's a good point too. Like,
Yeah.
because I remember during that few minutes, it was maybe half an hour. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was maybe less than that, but like during that time, like where we had this like outburst, not really outburst, but just like this moment, we were like right next to the Eiffel Tower. Like we weren't that far.
Yeah.
Like when I'm like, and my eyes open, like the Eiffel Tower is there. Like it's so while I'm kind of like talking to myself, like, he like da 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 da. It's like at some point you look up and you're like, what the hell am I doing? I'm in Paris.
Yeah.
And that does happen a lot. Like even if we're like about to like kind of like get frustrated with each other on our trips, I feel like that happens a lot. We're like, you know what? Like, is this like caused by something else? Like we're tired, we're hungry, which was going to be my point. Is I know that you're saying you don't necessarily, and the question said like not necessarily avoid, but just like try to figure out like a way to kind of like lessen the likelihood of it happening. I feel like knowing your triggers and your partner's triggers to like being discontent during travel is a really big one, because the more we've traveled together, I know, for example, I spent a lot of time on our figuring out what airline did we want our first long haul flight to be with, like really long haul. That was going to Nepal, which we talk about in another video. And I chose Qatar Airways because I knew that Kamal's tall and does not want to be scrunched up in a seat, and we like to be comfortable for hours. Yeah. And we like to, hence Paris, the Paris fight. I know that like we took a bus from London to Paris, and that was one of our first like
technically and a boat. The bus goes on a boat.
And that was one of our first like adventure-y, like out of our comfort zone things that we did together. And like that discomfort brought so much displeasure and discontentment once we got to Paris. Not just for him, but for both of us, because like you didn't really get great sleep. You're achy, you're hungry, it's early in the morning, and you don't know the language. There were so many layers. So back to Qatar Airways, I knew like this is our first really long flight. Do we want any discomfort knowing that when we land we might be tired, confused, and all this stuff? And I was like, no. And actually when we got to Qatar, there was confusion. And no matter how many videos we watched about the airport, there's confusion. We were there for hours after our flight just trying to get through immigration because there was misinformation or no information. And so if we didn't have like a good experience on Qatar Airways, slept, fed, and feeling great when we got off the plane, that would have been magnified by any situation we were presented with at the airport.
Absolutely.
So I feel like definitely knowing those things before or during your travels like really helps with lessening how much you end up like stressing each other out and like fighting. Even if you've been together for decades, I mean, that might be going out on a limb here, but I feel like if you've been together for decades, married, dating, whatever, you'll still have that growth that you need, or like you have to learn that with your spouse, because it's like exercising a different muscle or like brain muscle, whatever, because you've never been in those situations together before. But use the things that you do know about your spouse already and that you know about your relationship to help you get past those things quicker.
Right.
Because If you just go in there thinking, yeah, we've been together for like 30 years, like whatever, like these young kids don't know, I feel like you're kind of doing yourself a disservice, because you're gonna go in it and then get hit, and it's gonna take a little longer to recoup. You don't want to waste any time when you're in Egypt. You know what I mean? Yeah. You want to be like, okay, this was the problem. Let's figure this out together. Or how about you figure it out? I'll take a step back. Whatever it is.
Right.
Just use what you already know to get you guys past it.
I just wanted to add one thing. I remember people that we knew said that we were in the honeymoon stage because we traveled so often, and I feel like in people's minds we were like going to a resort and laying out on the beach and nothing was happening, but like we're in the trenches when we go places. Things have to be done. Plans need to be executed, and it's definitely not sunshine and rainbows, and it will speed up the experience of your relationship when you go on these travel excursions. So it is good to know the triggers, how to relieve the pressure, and again, sometimes you just gotta like take a step back and then get back together again.
We also wanted to share some of the things that other travel couples commented on one of our Instagram posts that was about traveling with your spouse. Canned adventures. Wow, this is the truth. I've been traveling with my spouse, I prefer Sean, almost every month, and we learned that communication and space and respect is important when traveling together. We also use a funny safe word when either one of us gets angry, storms off, or use the silent treatment. It makes us laugh that we get back to our trip, enjoying each other and give the other the needed space.
This one's a bit closer to home. This one is from Milkbox McFly. Hello to the Austins. And it says, yo, you're so right on that team building part. You get to know who you're dealing with when you're out of your element, and that happens often on awesome trips. My advice is to give more grace than you usually do. That time is too valuable to donate it to bits of passion. I've learned also that the more you're together in those settings, you gotta prep for potential discomfort. If all else fails, play Wheezy on repeat. Bing James.
And the last one is from our buddies, 2 adults, no kids. Space. And the understanding that we don't have to do everything together. Kevin knows I am not hitting up casinos with him. And I know he'd rather watch paint dry instead of wandering around old libraries with me.
Let us know if you have any more comments for us. We'd be happy to answer it. Travel couples will be happy to answer it. Just ask it in the comments below or on our Instagram. I think that's all for us.
Yep.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.